Okay, so in this video I'm going to be saying all the different types of cars and settings and stuff that you should, or I'd recommend using if you're just starting playing Gran Turismo. And even if you've been playing for a long time, I would still watch this video if you want. But I'm going to be starting with the easiest cars to drive and going with the hardest cars to drive, and then I'll go to the settings and stuff. And starting with the easiest cars to drive, the Mercedes, which is the car I'm in right now, is, in my opinion, a good car to start with because it's very fast in the straight line, it's very fast in the corners, and it's a very stable car, and that's why it's my main car that I use now. And I'd recommend it if you're just starting out, or even if you've been playing for a while. I'd recommend playing with it for a bit. And then the next car is the Renault Alpine. It's like the Mercedes, just really bad in a straight line. So I wouldn't really recommend it that much. But then we move to the Corvette. It's very similar to the Mercedes, just it sounds better in my opinion, but it can be more understeery, which is why I still use Mercedes. And then we move to the McLaren. It's very good in the corners, but it's really bad in the straights, so unless you're around a cornering track like Mount Panorama or something, I'd say that's a cornering track. I wouldn't really recommend it. And then we move to the Porsche. It's pretty much identical to the McLaren, just probably a bit more stable. So yeah, those are the easiest cars to drive in my opinion, in Group 3, because that's the main thing I drive in. Then we move to the cars that are a bit harder to drive, but they're still pretty easy to drive. The Ford GT and the Mustang. In my opinion, they're both very fast in a straight line, but they're very, very understeery, and they can be very oversteery when accelerating out of like hairpins and stuff. And then we move to the Toyota. It can be understeering, it can be oversteery, it can just slide out the corners depending on what the corner is. It's kind of a middle kind of car between like Mercedes and Mustang. So if you like middle to oversteery cars, I'd recommend it. And then we move to the Mazda. It's probably the worst car in the straights in my opinion, but in my opinion it's very bad in the corners as well. I think it's the worst car in Group 3, but I know a few people that actually drive it quite often. But when I drove it, it's very, I don't know, it's like oversteery but understeery at the same time. I don't really know how to explain it. You would have to drive it to really know what it handles like. Then we move to the hardest cars to drive in my opinion. I think everyone knows what it is. It's a Lamborghini Huracan in Group 3, because it's very oversteery if you don't drive it right, but I've driven it right before and it's really fast. But unless you're like having a good day driving a car or something, I wouldn't really recommend it, especially if you're just starting out on Gran Turismo. And then we move to the Honda NSX. It's one of my main cars that I use, but it's like the Lamborghini. If you don't drive it right, it can be very oversteery. And then we move to the Ferrari. It's also a really bad car, the Ferrari. I'm pretty sure it's rubbish in the straights. It's very weird in the corners, and it's just rubbish on tire wear and stuff. So yeah, those are the 3 worst cars in Group 3 in my opinion, if you're just starting out. If you're like an experienced player, then maybe recommend them, but still, I would recommend the Mercedes, because it's just a very easy and nice car to drive. And then move to the assists. So I see tons of people using traction control, not so much with stability control and counter steer and stuff. I think that's what it's called, the counter steer setting thing. I don't see many people using those, but when I do, it's like, well, why are you using them? They don't do anything. I tried using them before and I didn't really notice a difference. But with traction control, I mean, sure, it can help you not slide and spin around and stuff, but if you have traction control on and you're already like halfway into a spin, every time that's happened to me, the traction control just gives up and it just spins the car around anyway. So, and I'd recommend just turning off the traction control